This is the disturbing story of Call of Duty Black Ops 1. It lays the groundwork for Cold War, Black Ops 6, and Black Ops 2, but it all starts here. Our story begins way back in 1945. The Second World War had been raging for 6 long years at this point, but in April that year, the Battle of Berlin took place. In the battle, the Soviet Union's Red Army completed their advance across Europe by finally entering Germany's capital city. This was one of the final key battles of the war, and ultimately, it signified the European side of things coming to a close. However, despite the war beginning to wind down, the various global superpowers involved on the winning side, so primarily the US in the west and the Russians in the east, were still very proactively jostling for as powerful a position as they could achieve. Just because Germany had been defeated didn't mean that the country's technology was of no interest to those superpowers, and so efforts continued to capture German territory, research, and personnel in an effort to get a leg up against the other superpowers. This would ultimately become the basis for the conflict of the Cold War itself. But in 1945, it was more so just about last-minute power grab missions in the wake of Germany's defeat.
Victor, it is time.
Yes, Dmitri. Time to hunt down the last remnants of the fascist Reich.
Nevsky, grab the gear. We're moving out.
We can use an example of one such mission in October 1945 to introduce our first key characters in the Black Ops story. 4 soldiers fighting for the Soviet Union's Red Army. Their names were Captain Viktor Reznov, Sergeant Dmitry Petrenko, Major General Nikita Dragovich, and Colonel Lev Kravchenko. These men were all part of Russia's 3rd Shock Army, which was led by Dragovich. So I mentioned one of our key characters was this guy Reznov. Having served in the 3rd Shock Army for years by this point, Reznov had grown to resent and distrust his superiors. These feelings had taken root years earlier when Reznov's unit desperately needed reinforcements in Stalingrad, but no backup was ever sent despite the fact that they promised they would. This resulted in great losses, leaving just 2 survivors from his unit, himself and Dmitry Petrenko. He kept the losses of his compatriots as a chip on his shoulder, and it continued to weigh heavy on him when our story begins here in 1945.
Ah, the hero of Berlin graces us with his presence. Have you not tired of battle, Reznov?
As long as Mother Russia has enemies, I will answer her call.
Put aside your petty rivalry, Kravchenko. Captain Reznov will do as he is told.
What happened in Stalingrad between you and Dragovich?
When the German occupation began, he and his lapdog, Kravchenko, left my men and I hopelessly outnumbered. Promises of reinforcements were made, but not kept. Dragovich and Kravchenko are opportunists, manipulators. They are not to be trusted, Dmitri.
We are here for one German, and one German only, Dr. Friedrich Steiner. This man has offered his cooperation to our cause. He is not to be harmed. Disobey this order, and you will be shot.
Their target was to capture a Nazi scientist called Dr. Friedrich Steiner, the man responsible for Project Nova, a highly secretive Nazi science program that researched and developed a deadly nerve gas called Nova 6. Prior to working on Nova 6, Steiner had been focused on the German Wunderwaffe program, which worked on various secretive technologies, including a rumored Die Glock device involving anti-gravity propulsion systems and time machines, and a low-level research assistant working with Steiner even claimed to have seen a mirror device that allowed the viewing of images from the past. But that's a topic for another video, and maybe, if enough of you hit the subscribe button, I'll get to work on a deep dive on that ASAP. But anyhow, that was all stuff that started earlier in the war. But then once 1943 rolled around, Steiner's focus pivoted to leading the development of Nova 6, and that's where he remained in 45. Nova 6 was a gaseous compound which was extremely lethal, and to get a bit of a feel for this, we can listen in to Lev Kravchenko himself.
Within 30 seconds of inhaling the gas, subjects experienced sudden and severe pain, quickly followed by significant drop in blood pressure, leading to fever, nausea, and vomiting. After 60 seconds, blistering of the skin begins, followed by scaling, peeling, and discoloration across the subject's entire body, effectively signaling the onset of epidermal necrosis.
Okay, so we know Nova 6 is highly dangerous, but how did the Soviets know that the Nova 6 researcher Dr. Steiner was in the Arctic of all places? Well, earlier in the year, with their backs against the wall at the close of World War II, the Germans had intended to strike Washington, D.C. and Moscow with Nova 6 loaded rockets to cause mass civilian casualties. They'd successfully kept the location of their Nova 6 research out of the hands of enemy intelligence agencies like the British MI6 by stationing their Nova 6 rockets on mobile freighter ships so they could change their locations to keep the British guessing. Late in the year, the British finally managed to track down the ships' locations, and they bombed them in order to preemptively halt any German missile launch from happening. In doing so, the ships were damaged and could no longer move, and so the German task force manning the ships were forced to hunker down as they were now stranded in the ice. Dr. Steiner had been in charge of this German task force, and after recognizing that he was on the losing side and running out of options, he contacted the Soviet Union to offer his expertise on Nova 6 in exchange for his life. So, the Third Shock Army had heard that and made their move, and with a splinter unit led by Reznov and Dmitry Petrenko, the Soviets entered the area and began to clear it of all enemy personnel other than Steiner himself.
Do not point that weapon at me, Russian dog!
You will take me to Dragovich.
Upon Steiner's capture, he demanded to see General Dragovich, and when he did, they spoke about the nerve gas's capabilities, and Steiner led the Soviets into the hold of the ship to see his Nova gas missiles. However, Dragovich didn't want to just imagine the effectiveness of Nova 6, he wanted to see it in action.
Dragovich wanted to see the effects of the poison firsthand. It was also an opportunity to remove a thorn in his side. I had long known of their distrust, what kind of men they were. It was a betrayal I should have foreseen. Dmitry Petrenko was a hero. He deserved the hero's death. Instead of giving his life for the glory of the motherland, he died for nothing, like an animal. He shot up died in Berlin. As I watched my closest friend die, it became clear we were not the only ones seeking the German weapons.
So, Reznov's unit was split in two and locked into separate chambers, and Reznov then had to watch as his longtime friend Dmitry died a painful death to Nova 6. And all this was done just so that Dragovich could see how powerful Nova 6 was. He really didn't care about his own men, and instead was just completely enraptured by the power he now felt had fallen into his hands. Reznov naturally was infuriated. He had no respect for men who teamed up with Nazis, and he considered doing so an act of betrayal against all of Mother Russia. And for Dragovich to have turned on his own men was an even greater act of betrayal. Reznov may have ended up being subject to the same fate as well, but before he did,
British commandos assaulting our position!
British commandos arrived who themselves were trying to secure the Nova 6 technology for use by the British Empire, and they began fighting against the Third Shock Army, allowing Reznov to free himself. Enraged by what he had just witnessed Dragovich do, Reznov began to fight against not just the British commandos, but also against the Third Shock Army. And while Dragovich, Kravchenko, and Steiner left, Reznov knew that if he exited in the same manner, the Nova 6 technology would just fall into British hands, and so he had to try and prevent that.
Keep moving! This is not our war! We stand alone!
He rigged the remaining Nova 6 reserves to blow up and fought against 2 armies on his way out. And once he reached a safe distance, the charges that he had set went off, blowing up the ship and the onboard nerve agent, setting Nova 6 development back by years.
Go, Reznov! Go!
Here, Reznov vowed to enact revenge on Dragovich, Kravchenko, and Steiner for their senseless murder of his friends and betrayal of Mother Russia. But sadly, technically, he was now an enemy of his home country, and so he was captured by the Soviets and sent to Vorkuta, a large-scale prison labor camp in the Russian Ural Mountains.
Woods, it's been a while.
Well, enough, Carlos. You know Bowman, right?
Jumping forward over a decade, the Cold War was now in full swing, and tensions between the US and Soviet Union had risen a great deal. In Cuba, Fidel Castro had successfully overthrown the sitting Cuban dictator Fulgencio Batista, who, prior to being overthrown, had been backed by the United States government. Castro's takeover included communist policies, nationalization of all US-owned businesses in Cuba, and alliance with the Soviets for economic and military support. Now, Cuba, being so geographically close to the US, but allying with the Soviets, worried the United States a great deal. They were obviously deeply concerned about communism's rise and its potential to spread into the United States, and Cuba was simply a bit too close to home. So, the US government devised a plan to overthrow Castro and replace his government with a new regime which would be more acceptable to the US. However, they obviously couldn't overthrow him publicly, and so they created a covert plan instead, and they called this Operation 40. And this is where, really, the Black Ops 1 campaign begins. Operation 40, or Op 40, was to have a minimum of 40 agents on board, hence Op 40, and would be led by Cuban exile Felix Rodriguez. However, American agents were also needed for the task, and they were selected based on a broad range of factors, including how strongly anti-communist they were. One such candidate was born and raised in Alaska, and the geographical proximity of his home state to the communist Russia brought the threat of the Cold War that much closer to his doorstep than most Americans. This made him a perfect fit to join Op 40, and his name was Alex Mason. He would go on to be perhaps the most important character in the entire Black Ops story, but following his selection in 1960, his sole focus to start with was simply just taking down Castro. So, in 1961, the mission plan was finalized, and Op 40 were ready to make their move. Alex Mason was on the squad and was joined by Cooper Bowman and Frank Woods, 2 other equally anti-communist operatives with sworn allegiance to the United States. Woods was an old warhorse by this point, having been recruited to the CIA Special Operations Unit after gaining notoriety in the Marines and in the Korean War in the 1950s, and all that made him a real asset to the Op 40 team. They entered Cuba, and once they got there, they met with a Cuban operative who tipped them off to Castro's location. The plan was to distract Cuban authorities with an attack on the Cuban airfield, while Mason and his Op 40 crew hunted down Castro.
Target should be up ahead. Just move inside. Get in position. That's it. Ready to make history?
The intel was spot on, and once they got there, they successfully found Castro and shot him dead, along with his mistress. Then, a hard-fought battle to escape the compound ensued. amid the chaos, the team that took down Castro managed to make it to the airplane that was waiting for them.
Give us cover, Mason!
But then on takeoff, they were met with harsh resistance from Castro's forces, and Mason's machine gun simply wasn't enough to break through the unexpected enemy blockade on the runway.
What? You got him caught! The fucking vehicles are blocking the runway! I hear you, Bowman! There's not enough time for takeoff! I'll deal with it.
But Mason was an American hero. He'd just taken Fidel Castro down. And so, in a true act of heroism, he jumped out of the plane and manned the enemy's anti-aircraft weaponry and cleared the runway for his squad mates to escape.
No choice, Woods. I knew what I signed up for. Got me fine. Just go. Get out of here.
Which was very noble of him, but in doing so, Mason was then subsequently captured by a potentially familiar face if you've been paying attention, because it was Lev Kravchenko, who we talked about back in the Arctic. Mason was then witness to a meeting between Dragovich, Kravchenko, and, weirdly, the man he thought he had just shot in the face, Fidel Castro.
We killed you.
No. You killed a double. You think we didn't know of your plan?
We always know.
Well, it turns out Op 40 had targeted Castro's body double, not the real Fidel Castro.
Do with him what you wish, General. He's my gift to you, in honor of our new relationship. Just make sure that he suffers.
He will know suffering beyond his darkest fears. I have plans for you, American.
Pleased with his survival, Castro decided to gift Mason to the Russians, and Mason was then ultimately brought to Vorkuta. In the prison camp, he was tortured and brainwashed, not just by Soviet scientists, but also by a familiar face who was also working with the Soviets now. So yeah, as you might have guessed, the lead scientist experimenting on Mason was actually Dr. Friedrich Steiner, the one responsible for Project Nova. Steiner's experiments on Mason were intended to convert Mason into a sleeper agent that could act on behalf of Soviet interests. They wanted to destabilize the West and ultimately carry out the plan the Nazis once had to deploy Nova 6 against their adversaries, and who better to act as a mole than an American soldier? Separate to all that though, Mason also made friends with Viktor Reznov, who was still being held in the camp from his capture back in the 40s. However, as we know, Mason was fiercely anti-communist. That's why he was recruited to Op 40 in the first place. So how the hell did he end up bonding with fervent communist Reznov? Well, when Mason was first thrown into the camp, relations between the two started off very contentious, as you might expect, and they ultimately resulted in a brawl between Mason and Reznov's followers. That brawl ended with both Reznov and Mason being sent to solitary confinement for around a month, but after their individual confinements ended, Reznov and Mason got over their individual differences and disagreements and became fast friends, because they now had a common enemy, their captors. With their friendship formed, they began preparations for their eventual escape. Throughout their planning, Reznov sought to ingrain in Mason this idea that Steiner, Dragovich, and Kravchenko all must die. Reznov was thirsty for revenge against his captors, and wasn't shy about sharing that with Mason. He wasn't just a man of ideas either, but also a man of action, and in 1963, Reznov planned to put his escape attempt idea into motion and to bring all the other Vorkuta prisoners along with him.
Reznov.
Mason. Every journey begins with a single step.
This is step one!
Secure the keys!
Now, we take Vorkuta! What is step two? 3!
Rain fire!
4!
Unleash the horde!
me to introduce Sergei Kozin, the monster of Magadan.
I'm glad you're a friend, Sergei.
The monster of Magadan was certainly very physically imposing, but he didn't speak much, and the reason for this was actually explained by Reznov.
Sergei mocked Dragovich in front of the wrong people. For his insolence, Dragovich cut out his tongue with a rusted sickle.
Step 2!
Reznov, your men must know this is suicide.
Victory cannot be achieved without sacrifice, Mason. We Russians know this better than anyone.
Prepare yourself, men! Step 3!
Great fire!
See how Mason will do. Never lose faith, my friend! Never! Months of planning, Mason! Mason! Climb the tower and support the uprising in the south!
What about you, Reznov?
For our plan to work, we need every man to play his part!
Step 4. Unleash the Horde.
I will rally the men!
So, Reznov went to do exactly that, and tried to lift all of the men's spirits while Mason got to work destroying some of the enemy infrastructure that still stood in the prison.
This way! Arm yourselves, comrades! Reinforcements will soon arrive to defend the main armory!
Just as we planned.
How do we achieve step 5?
Mason's weapon will soon be ready. The chopper is here! Good! How is this good? Because it is as we witness the step 5! This way!
Hope this works.
Get to the harpoon! Use your moment! Asa! Grab the harpoon! You all know what to do!
They're trying to lock down the armory!
Stop them! Keep firing! Fire! They are trying to seal the door!
Sergei!
Just like so many others did that day, Sergei gave his life in service of the grand escape attempt that Reznov and Mason had been planning for so many months. And so, despite the loss of their friend, the two of them had to keep pushing forwards in hopes that the overall plan could still come to fruition.
Step 7, comrades! For honor! For vengeance! For Russia! Using tear gas!
Now, I should mention, all of this was taking place on October 6th, 1963, and it seemed like that would be the historic day of the successful Vorkuta escape attempt until tear gas was used on the prisoners, and Mason and all the other escapees were knocked out by the fumes. Luckily for him, though, Reznov managed to drag him off the ground as he came to, and he was brought to safety.
We do not have much time. Within this shrine, to the hypocritical decadence of Vorkuta's leaders, lays the key to step 8.
Freedom.
They drove alongside a train which they intended to use to truly escape the compound for good. And as the train approached, Reznov encouraged Mason to leap from the truck and onto the train itself.
Jump, Mason, jump! Go, Mason, go!
Your turn! Come on! Step 8, Reznov! Freedom!
For you, Mason! Not for me!
Reznov!
In doing so, Reznov was left behind and seemingly captured, sacrificing himself for Mason's freedom. Following his escape, Alex Mason successfully returned home to the United States and was handed over to CIA operative Jason Hudson to resume work on top-secret US operations. However, the CIA were very uncertain about what to actually do with Mason's debilitated mental health. On the one hand, the agency felt that by forming such a close relationship with a known communist, Reznov, Mason's moral, philosophical, and political foundations may have been corrupted. This led some members of the agency to insist on Mason's field status being immediately and permanently revoked. However, other members of the agency disagreed, and they tested him to see if Mason could or would break in any way. But he didn't break, and so they were reassured that his original anti-communist stance remained true and his fieldwork could continue. Even so, they did set up extra precautions to ensure Mason was watched at all times, just in case he did go off the rails. As part of his reintegration into the CIA, Mason was brought along to the Pentagon to meet with then-President John F. Kennedy in private. As he traveled through the different floors of the Pentagon and approached the meeting, he began hearing an insistent stream of numbers being read aloud in his mind.
Ariel. Geppies. He's waiting.
The numbers were disorienting, and while trying to collect his thoughts, he also kept thinking back to the old steps his friend Reznov had outlined for their Vorkuta escape attempt.
Step 2. Ascend from darkness. Step 3. Rain fire.
It was weird. Why couldn't he think straight? All this got increasingly overwhelming, but still, he pushed forwards and entered the meeting with JFK, while barely holding things together.
Mr. President?
Agent Mason.
Great honor, Mr. President.
Sit. We are in grave danger from the communists. Our freedom, our very way of life is at risk. Dragovich. I'm told that you are the very best that we have. Anywhere.
The proposed mission was to assassinate Dragovich in order to protect America, and Mason was the man for the job. As soon as Dragovich was mentioned, Mason went from barely holding things together to having a full-on psychotic break. I mean, there's no other way to describe this. He hallucinated shooting the president, but managed to snap out of it and finish the meeting without actually carrying that out and letting the intrusive thoughts win. However, JFK's time on this earth was destined to be pretty short-lived regardless of Mason's self-control in that moment, as he was assassinated just 2 weeks later. Now, the history books will tell you that a man called Lee Harvey Oswald was arrested for the murder, but interestingly, Oswald claimed to be a patsy and said he was being set up and wasn't actually responsible for the president's death. 2 days after Oswald was arrested, he, in turn, was killed inside the Dallas police headquarters, and so much of his story and potential alibi died with him, leaving the circumstances around JFK's murder a point of speculation for decades to come. Just 1 week later, Mason, alongside his Black Ops colleagues Bowman, Woods, and Brooks, began an operation to infiltrate a Soviet spaceport called the Baikonur Cosmodrome in the USSR. The Black Ops crew had intel suggesting that at the Cosmodrome, they'd be able to find members of the Ascension Group, which was a group of Nazis, Russians, and other scientists planning to launch a rocket as part of the Soviet space program's long-range missile project. Crucially, it wasn't just low-level Ascension Group members who would be present at the Cosmodrome, but the staff there would also include Dragovich, the US president's main target, and so the stakes of this mission were high. On top of that, it was a Russian spaceport, and it was obviously very much in the interests of the United States to interfere with and prevent Russian scientific advancements in the field of aerospace engineering and rockets and long-range missiles. So any trouble that the team could cause the Russians would also be a win for the United States, and so they planned to prevent any rocket launches they could while they were on site. Gregory Weaver, a Russian double agent planted in the Ascension Group by the CIA, was inside the facility, but was seen captured from afar by the one and only Lev Kravchenko.
Damn, it's Weaver. He's burnt.
Your colleague is unwilling to explain his presence in this facility.
Who the fuck is this?
Surrender now, and you will be allowed to leave.
It's Kravchenko. Dragovich is second in command.
This is your only warning.
There's nothing we can do, Mason. Weaver's done.
No.
Your choice.
This is not good.
Whiskey, you're in position.
Roger, X-ray. Whiskey's covering the road.
Weaver's been compromised. Expect the base to be an elevated alert. Hold your position. We are inbound.
Woods and Mason witnessed Kravchenko stab one of Weaver's eyes, and quickly they moved in to save their friend, who they knew would be able to help them sabotage any rocket launches and cause the Russians a lot of grief.
You able to continue on mission, Weaver?
Let's do it! Did you sabotage the guidance system?
I was compromised. Guess we're through being subtle. Move to plan B.
There may still be time to abort the launch. We need to get to the auxiliary control bunker.
Once they rescued Weaver, they only had 5 minutes or so to stop the impending rocket launch that was approaching.
We have to destroy the rocket, no matter what. It's too late! I can't stop it!
But Weaver then failed to stop the launch sequence, and the Soyuz 2 rocket began to lift off.
Load Mason! Now!
Oh, shit!
Hell of a way to test the prototype.
Mason, once again, being the American war hero that he was, picked up a guided missile control pad and flew it right into the rocket, exploding the Soyuz before it could complete liftoff. This was great news, and they then went on to take out dozens more low-level Ascension Group staff on site. But that wasn't nearly as important to Mason as taking out Dragovich himself.
Okay, time we got the hell out of here.
Not yet. We're going after Dragovich.
Now, the other members of the crew were ready to scramble from the Cosmodrome at this point, because Weaver being captured had caused their overall mission to go pretty wrong, but Mason was still desperate to capitalize on any opportunity in front of him to take Dragovich down, and so he ordered the team to stay and continue hunting him. Eventually, they found Dragovich's limo, and Mason blew it up with machine gun fire, which made Woods feel pretty confident that they had successfully neutralized Dragovich.
Trust me, that rat bast's a fucking charcoal briquette.
They left the site without IDing the body, but gradually, over time, Mason grew anxious that Dragovich may have miraculously survived somehow, and he could still be out there. Even without the brainwashing and torture he experienced at Vorkuta, it makes sense Mason might react this way as well. He'd already failed to nail his proper target once before at the Op 40 incursion to assassinate Castro, so a doggedly aggressive commitment to confirming a body all these years later seems kind of logical, to be honest. However, over time, Mason's actions turned from kinda logical or rational to very much irrational, and signposted his slow spiral into near madness. Over the next 5 years, Mason obsessed over tracking Dragovich down, but with no luck, and being unable to unearth Dragovich's whereabouts ate Mason alive. Just as the mere mention of Dragovich's name in the president's office in 1963 had caused him to experience a little psychotic break, so too now did all these thoughts of Dragovich cause him to become even more frenzied. And along with the mania came more numbers in his head. He heard them even more frequently as time progressed, but still didn't understand their true meaning. In 1968, America was in the thick of the Vietnam War, and Mason was sent to Khe Sanh, Vietnam, with his CIA handler, Jason Hudson, to join a special operations group led by his old colleague, Frank Woods. They shortened the group name to SOG, and their mission was to investigate covert Russian activity in nearby Laos.
Now, aside from being a base for the Marine Corps, Khe Sanh is our launching point for all cross-border activities.
Mason arrived at the perfect time, really, as moments later, a large incursion of Vietnamese forces made an attack on the American base, and he had to work with Woods and Hudson to fight off the attack. To his credit, he quickly acclimatized to the reality of warfare in Vietnam, but perhaps most interesting in this time period isn't actually what Mason was getting up to, but instead a different CIA mission altogether which took place the following week. The mission sought to investigate a mysterious, valuable asset in a firebase called the Da Nang firebase, and it nearly ended up causing a nuclear bomb to go off and wipe out pretty much the entire country of Vietnam and Laos and everything nearby. Now, this is obviously a pretty big deal, just nukes going off in the Vietnam War. And honestly, it probably deserves some more solid screen time, so let me know if you guys want me to make a full video on that in the comments. Anyway, returning to the core Black Ops timeline here, we resume at the start of February 1968, so that's about 2 weeks after Mason's arrival in Vietnam. Around February 2nd, a Russian defector had turned himself in at the United States' MAC-V compound in Hue City, South Vietnam. The south of the country, known as the Republic of South Vietnam, was generally more aligned with the United States than the more communist-leaning regions in northern Vietnam, so it was really lucky that the defector had managed to successfully make it down into southern territory. Also, he claimed to have intel on Dragovich, contained in a dossier full of secrets, and so, naturally, the CIA were highly excited to learn everything they possibly could from him. However, crucially, he turned himself in just as the countrywide Lunar New Year celebration of the Tet Nguyen Dan holiday began. Due to the holiday's cultural significance, the North and South of Vietnam actually agreed on a 2-day ceasefire with each other. Like, that's a real thing that happened, which resulted in most South Vietnamese personnel going on leave. Then, unexpectedly, the North broke their promise in an attempt to end the Republic of South Vietnam with a single countrywide invasion. Within 24 hours, the North Vietnamese army, known as the NVA, had sent over 80,000 troops into 100 municipalities, including Hue City, where the defector was now holed up. And so, obviously, this put the CIA in a real bind, because they had this incredibly valuable asset in their grasp for mere moments before the NVA invasion caused their link to the Hue City base to go completely dark. And now, they didn't even know whether or not the defector was still alive. The NVA had the city surrounded and MAC-V all but burned to the ground, and so their hopes of salvaging info from the defector seemed a little bit like a lost cause, but Mason just couldn't accept that the defector was dead because he was desperate for the info the defector had about Dragovich. So he, Woods, and Bowman rushed into the destruction in hopes of finding the defector alive.
Hotel 6, come back. Hotel 6, do you roger? Lima 9, Hotel 6 is gone.
Dispatch 12, hold your incendiaries. Where we heading, Mason?
Lima 9er, I got eyes on X-ray.
Move out.
You got NBA all over the north lane, Lima 9 and Lima 9.
They had to push through pretty much endless opposition to gain access to the compound where the defector was located, or had been located, and when Mason checked one of the safe rooms, he was attacked by an MVA soldier and then suddenly rescued by an old friend.
Mason.
Reznov, how'd you get out of Vorkuta? Never thought I'd see you alive.
Nor are you, my friend. I am here with a warning. Your government would do well to heed. Dragovich is planning an attack on the west.
Mason, you get what you came for?
Dragovich, I knew we'd see him again.
His influence spreads like a cancer. Even the Kremlin does not know what he is truly planning. He must be stopped, Mason.
Dragovich, Kreshenko, Stein, all must die.
Are these your men?
Woods, Bowman.
I am Reznov. Victor.
What took you so long, Mason? That intel better be worth it.
Mason could not believe his eyes. The defector was Reznov. Reznov's whereabouts had been completely unknown since Mason's escape from Vorkuta 5 years prior, but all these years later, he was seemingly the very man that Mason's team were looking for. Reznov warned Mason of attack on the west that was coming soon, and he reiterated that Dragovich must be stopped. Reznov also had the dossier, and in it confirmed Soviet presence in Vietnam, but mainly highlighted a program called Project Nova. Early analysis by the US, who were a bit more unfamiliar with Nova at this point, suggested that Project Nova might be a new Soviet weapons program, but United States assets operating in Soviet borders couldn't actually verify or uncover Project Nova's true purpose. But even so, they did learn from the dossier that Nova was spearheaded by Nikita Dragovich, who Mason thought had died in his exploded limousine all the way back in 1963. And not only that, but Dragovich's right-hand man, Lev Kravchenko, was also involved with Project Nova. So you can imagine the CIA, having learned this and having thought that Dragovich had been dead for years, were rattled by what they just discovered, but it was at least better to know that Dragovich was alive than to think he was dead and just sort of let him get up to no good with no repercussions. So they put a plan in place to try and follow the dossier's other leads and ultimately take Dragovich down. Based on information learned through Reznov's dossier, Weaver and Hudson traveled to Kowloon City, Hong Kong, to find and interrogate a chemical engineer called Dr. Daniel Clark. Clark had been a staunch member of the British Communist Party in the 1940s, but as global tensions rose and the Cold War escalated, he was ousted from various scientific societies back home due to his open and regularly vocalized political opinions. As McCarthyism took hold in the United States, similar sentiments spread to the United Kingdom, and Clark was even further demonized by his peers. Because of this alienation, he was forced to consider other opportunities for research if he wanted to remain a chemical engineer. And in 1964, he traveled to Moscow to meet a party representative for a new top-secret Soviet science project. What do we think that science project was called? Well, yeah, you guessed it. It was none other than Project Nova, being led by Dragovich himself. The meeting went well, and he started working with Dragovich and his team shortly afterwards, in especially close collaboration with Dr. Steiner. Their work on Nova 6 development continued for 4 years, and as he got to know the Russians better, it became clear to Clark that he'd be a dead man once he was no longer useful to them. So, once Clark felt like his involvement might be coming to a close, he escaped Project Nova and was on the run from Dragovich's men in Kowloon City, Hong Kong, and that's when Hudson and Weaver intercepted him, in hopes of learning more about Project Nova.
Think about what you have to lose.
We can do this all day. We got plenty of windows.
Or you can give us what we want and we guarantee your safety.
I'm already a dead man.
Once they found him, they tortured him to try and get some answers, and knowing that he was likely dead either way, Clark folded and agreed to help the CIA out. He mentioned he had been working alongside Dr. Steiner to stabilize volatile Nova-6 gas compounds, presumably so the Russians could use Nova-6 as a weapon. But before he could say much more, Russian forces intervened and attempted to kill Clark to stop him from spilling their secrets. In response, Weaver and Hudson escorted Clark through waves of Russian forces, and as they did so, Clark told them about a secret facility linked to Project Nova.
Then I thought we'd just go into a lot of trouble to shut you up. What are you not telling us? I told you about Nova 6. Where is their base? Nam? Laos? Cambodia? It's home turf. The Ural Mountains. Yamatal. That's where you'll find Steiner. In its final preparations for Project Nova.
What else? Whispers, rumors, anything.
Steiner talked with Dragovich about numbers.
What kind of numbers?
The kind that their plan relies on.
So, Hudson learned a lot very quickly there. He now knew Steiner was at Mount Yamantau, and that Dragovich and Steiner had some kind of plan revolving around numbers. But before he could get more info, the Russians found them again, and they had to keep moving. Their escape route took them across a series of rooftops, but while jumping between them, Clark slipped, and was luckily saved by Hudson and Weaver. However, Clark's luck was still about to run out.
What about the numbers, Clark? Oh yeah, Right now, уничтожить! That's the key! Вот туда! Вот они!
The CIA had so nearly gotten crucial info about these mysterious numbers, but for now, they were still in the dark, and so they focused on Clark's more actionable info for the time being, and prepared to go to Mount Yamantau. On the very same day as Weaver and Hudson were escaping from Kowloon, Mason, Woods, Bowman, and Reznov were headed on a mission in the southern DMZ in Vietnam. As the squad approached their destination, their helicopter was shot out of the sky by a Viet Cong ambush. Reznov opened the escape hatch from the outside and rescued Mason from the wreckage, and as this happened, Mason again heard the sound of the number broadcast. The small team moved stealthily through the jungle, and Mason continued to hear Reznov speaking to him as they moved forwards.
I will move to high ground to look for Krashenko's compound.
Understood. Stay close, Victor.
Hey, Joe.
Never gets old.
Mason, fill us in. Somewhere near this village is a military outpost under the command of General Kravchenko.
Been losing our FAC to AAA.
Gotta be a CPU. Disarm it, and we'll bring in the Hornets. Whiskey team, we cover the bridge in the East River. Mason with me on the west perimeter. Rendezvous point, the village, in 5 minutes. You got it?
Weapons free! Keep your eyes open for that CPU!
Eventually, Mason and Woods managed to regroup with Bowman, and together they took out a village occupied by the Viet Cong. As they fought through the village, they noticed some rat holes and cleared them with grenades, but one remained that Woods ordered Swift and Mason to head into in order to clear.
Dude, take this. Stay on. We'll find your Kravchenko. We'll make it out of there alive.
Bowman, point. Let's move.
This son of a bitch ain't fighting no more.
As Mason and Swift navigated the tunnel system, Reznov made an appearance.
Reznov, you nearly took a bullet.
No one fights alone.
This was supposed to be a stealth mission, but Mason made noise and acknowledged Reznov out loud.
What the fuck's wrong with you?
And Swift, understandably, was shocked because Mason was just breaching their stealth.
Mason, you gotta keep your shit together. Just come in.
Go ahead, Mason.
Swift's dead. We got VC crawling all over.
Spending no time to mourn, Reznov and Mason pushed through the remaining tunnels together and discovered a lab area that contained a recording of Kravchenko that discussed results of recent Nova 6 tests.
And left in a hurry.
Look around.
February 4th, 1968. Stabilizing agents supplied by Dr.
Quick, grab the documents, Reznov. We're leaving.
Much success. Recent field tests on the local population have shown this to be the most effective strain of Nova 6 produced thus far. While the speed of infection appears to be consistent across adult males, we have observed a more aggressive rate of decay within infants, usually leading to mortality within 30 to 45 seconds. We have every indication that we now have a workable formula which is effective, even in warmer climates. Communicate our successes to Dr. Steiner. Kravchenko out.
So, data from all around the world was all pointing in the same direction. In Kowloon, Clark had felt that his usefulness working on Nova was coming to a close, so Nova was likely nearing completion. And now, in Vietnam, Mason and his team were hearing confirmation of that same idea from the mouth of Kravchenko himself. So time was evidently running out, and fast. Immediately after the recording finished, the lab began imploding, as Kravchenko had rigged it to cover his tracks.
Damn it! Harry Mason! I do not wish this rat hole to become my grave!
Vic, what the fuck happened? We're seeing fire from the tunnel. Where the hell are you? We'll maintain a holding pattern so we have eyes on.
We're gonna have to crawl our way out of here! Dig, Mason! Dig! Shit! Mason!
Mason and Reznov narrowly escaped the rat hole and jumped into a helicopter occupied by Woods and Bowman.
Come on!
Let's get the fuck out of here!
They were surprised by their newfound knowledge that Kravchenko's Nova 6 tests had progressed so far, and were really worried that if the strain was actually as powerful as Kravchenko was boasting, it would claim countless lives when used. A few days later, the CIA learned of a Soviet cargo plane that they believed to be carrying Nova 6. The agency shot it down over Laos and immediately sent Mason, Woods, and Bowman to go and investigate the wreckage. Their assumption was that because the Nova 6 testing was so far along, there might be usable Nova 6 samples in the wreckage of the plane, and so it would be a big deal for the US to acquire them, and so the team wanted to try and do exactly that. The SOG squad plus Reznov traveled northbound via an armored gunboat along the Mekong River, and the squad ran into heavy resistance from the Spetsnaz and VC forces as they traveled, all the way up through the jungle towards the crash site.
Helicopters incoming.
Weirdly, after the Soviet Hinds were done ambushing the American helicopters, they dropped off troops and then immediately left the area. And that gave the Americans an opening to get into the wreckage that they had been fighting to reach. The team thought that the cargo they were going to capture at the crash site would be Nova 6 samples, but in reality, the contents were just American-made weapons. And not only that, but there was seemingly no Nova 6 gas on board, no samples to be found, and yet, bodies on the plane seemed to have been exposed to Nova 6. So what the hell happened here exactly? The team speculated, with Mason suggesting that the Nova 6 might have simply dispersed before they arrived, and Bowman wondered if the American weapons were present because the Soviets were trying to make America take the blame for a Nova 6 attack happening in Laos or Vietnam. What the team did not realize was that moments earlier, when the Soviet Hinds all mysteriously disappeared all at once, they'd actually flown away with a box taken from the crash site, seemingly to prevent the Americans from ever getting to it. The question is, what do you think was in the box? If it was the American weapons, why did they leave so many behind? And if it was Nova 6, they left the bodies, so surely the US would know that Nova 6 gas was present regardless. Do you think that they might have been trying to prevent undamaged Nova samples from falling into the hands of the United States? And if they had time to take undamaged samples out, why then did they still leave behind a map exposing the location of Kravchenko's compound, giving the US a massive advantage in tracking them down? Like, if they were taking Nova 6 samples away from the site, surely they would have taken that as well? There's honestly multiple valid interpretations here, and whatever you think fits best, I'd love to hear it in the comments section down below. Maybe we can get to the bottom of this together. Now, as the crew continued to investigate the crash site and find the map of the compound, for example, heavy fighting resumed. The Americans held their position until the Russian Hinds returned to break apart the wreckage, and when they did so, they tossed Mason and the others to the ground. Barely conscious, Mason began to hear the numbers again.
4, 6, 21, 17, 14, 9, 19, 24, 17, 24, 5, 13, 11, 20, 18, 21, 10, 16,
Dragovich, Kravchenko. It's been too long, Mason. We must make up for lost time.
Mason, Woods, and Bowman were then taken by Spetsnaz forces. Meanwhile, in Russia, Hudson and Weaver were following Dr. Clark's intel regarding the secret facility located on Mount Yamantau. And if Clark's intel proved to be accurate, they might even be able to capture Dr. Steiner. To start with, the team stealthily approached a substation and disabled the Russian short-range comms to keep the alarm from being raised.
Internal comms line cut. Base is dark. Moving to second objective. Big Eye, this is Kilo 1. Confirm that the relay is offline. Over.
Affirmative, Kilo 1.
They also shut off any outbound comms, but then moments later, an enemy fired an RPG that triggered a large-scale avalanche, which forced the team to base jump down to the foot of the mountain.
Avalanche! Hudson, run! Run! Go, go, go!
After doing so, they landed at the main compound and continued their search for any evidence of Project Nova or of Dr. Steiner himself. And they had to move fast because the avalanche, triggered all the way above them, would eventually make its way all the way down the mountain, and they wanted to be out of harm's way before it arrived.
Hudson, do you see these wires?
Yeah, running all through the facility.
They've got the place rigged to blow!
Make it fast, people. We don't have much time.
Upon entering the control room, the team noticed that the Russians had rigged the building to blow, and to make matters worse, Steiner wasn't even there. However, they did get a chance to speak to Steiner, and from him, they learned that Dragovich had set up a network of sleeper agents across the United States who he could then use to trigger Nova 6 attacks remotely should he so desire. The agents themselves had no idea that they had this mind control mechanism planted in their brains, and crucially, they could be activated and turned into Soviet drones using the numbers broadcasts. That's what the numbers were for. Clark had been trying to tell the team this before he'd been killed, but now his intel had still at least led them to the answer. While talking with Steiner, he also made it clear that he was well aware that Dragovich had begun to dispose of anyone and anything connected to Project Nova. And so, just like when Steiner was in the Arctic in 1945, he recognized that he was a dead man if he remained on the losing side. He offered to defect to the CIA and told them to come get him at a facility on Rebirth Island. In exchange, he promised to stop the numbers broadcast that Dragovich was planning to send out in the next few days to activate all his sleeper agents and trigger the deadliest attack in human history. Now, this wasn't the first time that the CIA had heard about or thought about Rebirth Island. 3 years prior, they'd actually carried out satellite surveillance of the island because they suspected its geographical location near Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, and the Aral Sea made it a perfect ecological environment for biological weapons testing. However, they'd never gone ahead and sabotaged the site or anything like that, but now that Steiner was confirming its importance, their old suspicions were finally being vindicated. Now, the CIA had really no time to reflect on this in the moment, because moments later, they were flung back into battle with the Soviet soldiers on site. They also became acutely aware that the avalanche was approaching, and the place was rigged to blow, so they had to begin making an urgent getaway.
I'll get on the M2. Get us out of here! Brilliant! I have to hotwire it. Take a chance. I need the minute!
Hudson commandeered a truck-mounted MG as Weaver attempted to hotwire the engine. The pair were forced to hold off countless Russians, but as the avalanche buried the compound, they managed to get the truck started and were able to move to safety. Once they got to safety, they reflected on what Steiner had said. The CIA were definitely no strangers to experiments in mind control and brainwashing, having run their own secret research programs like MKUltra, for instance, on the exact same topic. But the fact that there were active sleeper agents across the United States made the threat feel enormous. So, CIA researchers back in the US immediately got to work investigating any other leads on sleeper agent activity. And they stumbled on Gorky Korolev Medical, or GKM, a company registered to a man named Pavel Gorky. Now, Gorky is a very mysterious character because not only was he the cousin of Kravchenko, which is probably the most directly relevant part of his backstory, but also he was actually involved in the massacre which took place at Der Ries in Germany a few decades prior. And it was because of the resulting standoff at Der Ries that Richter's diary fell into the hands of Soviet forces. Years later, Gorky then set up GKM, this new company, and during the Vietnam War, he used it to not only funnel Nova 6 into Vietnam and Laos for the Russians, but also did business with several front companies based in the United States. The CIA inferred from this that the staff on those front companies were likely the very sleeper agents that Dragovich planned to activate to carry out his attack. And so as the web of evidence supporting Steiner's threats deepened, they realized they really had no choice but to take his offer seriously and make plans to head to Rebirth Island to get him out in order to prevent the numbers broadcast from ever waking up those very sleeper agents they were so worried about. By this point, 8 days had passed since the capture of Mason, Bowman, and Woods back in Laos, and while the CIA still presumed them dead, in actual fact, they'd gotten very lucky and survived, but were now captives of the North Vietnamese Army, the NVA. And the NVA was in cahoots with the Soviets, so I guess they weren't that lucky. The NVA were known for routinely employing extreme torture techniques that included rope bindings, irons, extensive beatings, and prolonged solitary confinement, but they had an even more twisted plan up their sleeves for their current prisoners. One by one, the Americans were forced to play Russian roulette for the entertainment of the NVA guards. The guards had dehumanized the Americans to such a great degree that they were gambling on who would fire a fatal shot, and their disregard for the lives of their captives especially grated on Bowman when it was his turn to play.
You don't scare me. Communist piece of shit.
Bowman! Bowman! You fucking son of a bitch! Next! I'm gonna kill you all!
Don't you touch me!
What? Shit. Motherfuckers. I'm gonna make them pay.
You! No talk. Blay!
What's the plan? I'm thinking.
No talk!
One chance, Mason. We'll take it. Okay.
Bang! You can't kill me! You shoot, GI, you shoot! Fuck!
This time, do it.
Aim lang!
Ready.
Blay. Bang!
6 and 8 o'clock.
With no time to mourn their friend's death, they made their escape, and filled with adrenaline, Woods took charge.
Plan escape! Bring him down,
Not
Mason!
going anywhere.
We got him! For Bowman!
For Bowman.
Kravchenko's compound can't be far. Evil bastard's days are numbered! You see that, Hind? We're gonna take it.
Сцепление на стабилизаторе заедает.
Давайте, Кравченко приказал нам вернаться на базу.
Mason, fire when ready.
Confirm!
Reloading, give me cover.
Бросай гранату! Понял, прикрывание!
Clear. Let's fly this bird.
Okay, what's our loadout? UV-32 rockets, 12mm nose cannon. These bastards are ready for World War III.
Chain load systems on the 32s.
Rotor's on. My stick.
UV-32s assigned. 12mm cannon assigned.
We have full power. You ready?
Ready.
I'll take her up above the canopy, then hand over the stick.
Clear.
I'll call targets as I see them. All enemy targets are valid. Understand? We have coordinates of Kravchenko's compound. We follow the river all the way.
Got it. Give me the stick.
You're a bird. Keep your eyes on the dirt. I don't want to get shot in the falls.
Gotcha, Woods.
Sampans in the river. Looks like a 50 cal on the bridge up ahead as well. Take that bridge out. Nice work.
Mason and Woods proceeded to destroy everything in sight as they followed the river towards Kravchenko's compound, which they had learned the location of back during the mission at the cargo plane crash site earlier. Once they got inside the compound, they found American prisoners of war, who they then released from Russian holding cells, and Mason discovered that Reznov was amongst the freed prisoners. So, Mason, Woods, and Reznov now pushed ahead to Kravchenko's office.
Огонь! Направление!
Check those stairs!
Not this time, American. You again. I should have killed you in Vorkuta.
That's your now, you son of a bitch. You die in the city.
What?
I got you, Mason.
What?
You're okay.
Are you okay? Mason.
Reznov.
Immediately afterwards, Mason was rescued by a familiar face, who distracted him from the fact that seemingly Woods had just blown up in front of his eyes.
Dragovich, Krashenko, Stein. All must die. All must die.
He also learned about Rebirth Island for the first time, which we, as players, already know about, but this was news to him. Mason was so set on carrying out Reznov's plan for vengeance that he simply charged forwards on his own to Rebirth Island, rather than getting approval from the CIA first. Kravchenko may have been killed, but Dragovich and Steiner still needed to fall in Mason's eyes, and so he figured that that was the top priority above all else. He simply had to carry out his mission.
Arrived with Reznov at Rebirth Island. Finally. Steiner was ours.
We are here. Rebirth Island. Source of Dragovich's poison.
4 days later, Mason and Reznov arrived at Rebirth Island and snuck into the facility. Meanwhile, Hudson and Weaver also made their way to Rebirth Island and began their own operation to locate Steiner, but they were met with heavy resistance, including Nova 6 attacks. Luckily, they came equipped with hazmat suits, so the gas didn't stop them.
Hazmat suits now!
Once Hudson and Weaver's team reached the building, they realized that Mason was already inside, and Hudson tried to contact Mason, but was unsuccessful.
Mason, this is Hudson. We know you're
on Rebirth Island. Talk to me, Mason.
While Hudson was catching up, Mason was getting busy with Steiner inside the facility.
Dragovich's men are rounding up everyone on the island! Those no longer essential to his plans are being executed! You must hurry before they kill me too!
Friedrich Steiner. This is the end.
I know you. Vorkuta. You don't know what we did to you.
Mason, talk to me.
Your evil has claimed the lives of many good men. No longer. Killing me will not stop Nova.
I do not care about Noah. My name is Victor Reznov. And I will have my revenge!
So seemingly, Reznov shot Steiner, neutralizing a target that he'd been pursuing for so many years. The man that killed Dmitry Petrenko in front of Reznov's eyes had finally met his bitter end. However, that was just how the events played out from Mason's point of view. So let's rewind now, and we'll take a quick look at how things unfolded from Hudson's perspective instead.
What the hell was that?
It's Steiner. We're trying to contact him. Steiner, what's the situation? Steiner, what's the situation?
Dragovich's men are rounding up everyone on the island. Those no longer essential to his plans are being executed. You must hurry before they kill me too!
Mason! We have to stop him now! Damn, it's bulletproof! Mason, what are you doing? We need him alive! Stand down! Stand down!
My name is Victor Reznov, and I will have my
revenge! Mason, go! Check Steiner!
He's dead.
What about Reznov, the defector? We need to find him.
We won't. He was never here. I didn't believe it till I saw it with my own eyes. What did they do to you in Vorkuta, Mason?
With Steiner dead, Mason's our only link to the numbers broadcasts.
We need to bring him back.
This is Weaver. We have the package. We're on our way.
Copy that. We're taking the dogs now.
What the hell did they do to you, Mason?
So, who do we believe? Mason's perspective with Reznov killing Steiner, or Hudson's perspective? They're obviously totally different, and whether or not Reznov was there is a pretty big deal for the Black Ops story, right? Well, the answer is Hudson's version of events is the real one, and Mason's version, with Reznov there, is a complete hallucination. Not only was Reznov not in the room with him and Steiner, but in actual fact, Reznov hadn't traveled to Rebirth Island with Mason, he hadn't been with Mason in Vietnam, and he never even made it out of Vorkuta. According to Hudson, he was killed during the escape. And if you believe Hudson, every single instance of Mason seeing Reznov from that point onwards was actually a complete fabrication in Mason's mind. Most importantly, this was actually Reznov's plan all along. In Vorkuta, Reznov knew about Steiner's sleeper agent experiments on Mason, and so he saw an opportunity to reprogram Mason's brain to attack Dragovich, Kravchenko, and Steiner instead of the targets that Dragovich wanted to attack.
Dragovich, Kravchenko, Steiner. These men must die.
So, picking up from the end of the little fight scene that took place there, with Mason pistol whipped now and out cold, Weaver and Hudson brought him back to the United States to interrogate him and find out just how crazy he actually was. Hudson figured that something might have happened to Mason in Vorkuta to cause all this, and wondered if it might be linked to the numbers broadcasts. They strapped him into a chair and electrocuted him to try and jog his memory.
Your name is Alex Mason. You were born in Fairbanks, Alaska. In 1961, you served in a CIA assassination team known as Operation 40. Is that correct? Is that correct?
Yes.
Where's the broadcast station?
I don't know what you're talking about.
The numbers, Mason. What do they mean? Where are they broadcast?
I don't know anything about any numbers.
During the interrogation, Mason became consumed by the numbers broadcast, but eventually the pieces started falling back into place.
It's no use. We're out of time. We can't give up now. He was at Vorkuta. He knows how to translate the codes. He's heard the broadcasts, which we know contain the location. It's all in his head somewhere. He does know where it is. We have to get to the bunker. We're at DEFCON 2. You've tried everything. Not yet. I have one more card to play.
Get out of here, Weaver. Tell them I failed.
You want to die with him? Your choice.
Damn it! Why can't you remember? Reznov's dead, Mason. Did you hear me? He's dead! Weaver's right. We're out of time. The Russians fucked you up. I know you. You're not a traitor.
The numbers, Mason. What do they mean? Where are they broadcast from?
The numbers! What are they saying?
6, 11, 25, 14.
Reznov! Where are you?
14.
Reznov!
8, 7, 21, 6, 4, 18.
Steiner was there! We had to kill Steiner! Keep hearing the fucking numbers!
You again.
I should have killed you, Vorkuta. Wait a few moments. Let them rest. consciousness, double the voltage.
I remember! Now, Bakuna!
The subject has been successfully implanted with the knowledge to translate the number sequences.
So, what is the problem?
His responses to our orders have been sporadic, unpredictable. He shows a remarkable resilience.
Why?
He is unusual, atypical. Few men possess such will. Our other test subjects have been far more successful.
If he will not follow the orders embedded in the numbers, then he is of no use to me. He can run. Take him back to his cell.
Oh, the... Oh, my God!
We are all brothers. With my life. He and us are not so different. We are all soldiers without an army. Betrayed, forgotten, abandoned.
You lose your life! You have!
We are brothers, miss. We are the same.
Kennedy. John. Fitzgerald. I told you we're the best we have.
We are in grave danger from the communists. Our very way of life is at risk. Dragovich.
Бортовое управление. 13.
Tell me to get the hell out of here.
Dragovich.
No one's getting out of there. Satisfied, Mason?
Пойдем. Ракета пошла.
No! Not yet. Not until I see the body. How many times Steiner was at Rebirth Island? We had to kill Steiner!
Victor Reznov!
What is this thing?
The pain is difficult, isn't it? We are brothers, Mason. We are the same. Dragovich, Krashenko, Steiner. All must die.
Dragovich brainwashed you, but Reznov had plans of his own.
Reznov. How'd you get out of Vorkuta? Never thought I'd see you alive.
He was never in Vietnam. The real defector with the Nova 6 dossier died during the attack on the McPhee. He was never in the rat tunnels.
What the fuck's wrong with you?
He's here. This way. We cannot let him slip through our grasp.
He was never at Rebirth Island.
I know. He's Victor. Mason! My name is Victor Reznov, and I will have my revenge! Mason, no! Step 8, Reznov. Freedom! For you, Mason! Not for me!
Victor Reznov's been dead for 5 years. He died at Vorkuta during the escape. All the years you thought he was with you, that was just in your mind.
I trusted him.
That's why it worked. It was their attempt at MKUltra. Dragovich programmed you to kill Kennedy, but Reznov sabotaged you. He wanted revenge for all the Dragovich done to him. Dragovich, Kravchenko, Steiner, 3 new victims. There are gaps in your memory. Periods where you went MIA and we couldn't account for you. But now that the brainwashing's been broken, all that lost time will come back. We need to leave. The Nova 6 strike is imminent. Hundreds of sleeper agents, hidden in every state capital, are about to unleash this poison on your own countrymen. When Steiner died, we lost our key to unlocking the location of number broadcasts. You were programmed at Vorkuta to translate the number codes. Only you can tell us what the codes mean. Nova 6 was just one of the sleeper operations, but I'm sure there were others, ones we didn't even know about. We have the broadcasts. We play them to you over and over again for hours, but we haven't been able to break through your programming yet. Mason, this is our last shot. Listen, for God's sake, listen again.
21-7, 21-4-2, 14-3, 14-7, 18-13, 6-22.
Do with him what you wish, General. This is my gift to you, in honor of our new relationship.
Vorkuta! You don't know what we did to you.
The subject has been successfully implanted with the knowledge to translate the number sequences.
All agents. Our new allies in Cuba have graciously permitted the construction of a new and permanent broadcast station within their borders.
From now until Project Nova's initiation, all instructions will be broadcast from the result. Our plan to strike at the very heart of the West is now in motion. Await further instructions.
Do with him what you wish, General. This is my gift to you, in honor of our new relationship. In honor of our new relationship.
Permanent broadcast station within their borders.
All instructions will be broadcast from the result.
I know where the number station is. It's a ship. I saw it a long time ago. The Rusalka.
Where?
Cuba.
With the location of the number station figured out, the team prepared to head to Cuba to find this newly remembered ship from Mason's memory called the Rusalka. Once they arrived, Hudson and crew boarded the ship and confirmed that it was indeed the location of the number's broadcast. Hudson then called in the Navy to sink the ship, and the Navy stated that they'd likely be there in about 15 minutes. The problem was, Mason wasn't satisfied. He knew Dragovich was on site, and so he pushed to confirm the kill on Dragovich before they made their escape, and Hudson obliged.
Shit! Dragovich is starting the broadcast! Command, this is Alpha 1. We have confirmed the Rusalka is the broadcast source. Bring in the airstrike. We're on our way out.
Not yet. We need to find Dragovich.
In less than 15 minutes, the U.S. Navy is gonna blow this place apart!
I made the mistake of not confirming the kill 5 years ago at Baikonur.
You sure you're still not brainwashed?
Would it matter? The son of a bitch needs to go down once and for all.
Get out of here, Weaver. We're gonna finish this.
The team swam down to the underwater building where the numbers were actually being broadcast from and disabled the transmission, and in doing so, they got Dragovich's attention, and he obviously wasn't happy about his plan being foiled.
Dragovich.
You should have been my finest agent. It would have all been so much simpler.
Dragovich!
I'm gonna kill you!
Trying to fuck with my mind! Wait! You don't know anything! Trying to turn me against my own! Trying to make me kill my own president!
Right?
Come on, Mason! Mason, this way! Go, 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 go! Keep moving!
Mace, you did it, Mace. You did what I could not.
As the Navy sank the Rusalka, Mason and Hudson swam up to the surface to safety.
Mason! It is over. We won.
For now.
They had successfully put a stop to Dragovich's attack on the West. Or had they? Because Dragovich, in his final moments, had alluded to the possibility that he had made Mason kill President JFK 5 years prior while under the spell of the numbers broadcast. So calling all of this a victory for the West seems insane. And maybe the more insane thing is that Dragovich wasn't bluffing. In fact, just before Mason had set off for the Rusalka and remembered its existence with Hudson, he'd actually briefly recollected part of his programming to kill the president.
Step 2. Ascend from darkness. Step 3. Rain fire.
You are getting close to your objective.
John. I'm told you are the best we have.
That's Oswald the Patsy that took the fall for Mason so Mason could get away with the crime. And once Dragovich, in his final moments, said what he said, it started to become much more clear how JFK's assassination and Mason's numbers were connected.
11, 1, 7, 19, 20, 10, 14, 2, 3, 19, 0, 8, 11, 22, 21, 5, 17. 17, 0, 10, 2, 23, 1, 8, 11, 25, 22, 9, 4,
6.5 millimeter.
9, 23, 1, 12, 0, 12, 16,
11, 22.
6, 12, 8, 4, 1, 6, 2, 10, 2, 1.
Texas.
Mason was there in 1963, and it's up to you to decide whether or not you think he really was the one to take out JFK. I mean, do you believe the history taught in the textbooks or the alternate Black Ops history? So while that's the complete Black Ops 1 story, there are some serious unsolved questions in this narrative. Number 1, did Mason kill JFK? Is he free of the numbers programming? Did Woods survive the explosion against Kravchenko's grenade? There's a lot of unresolved stuff here, but thankfully I've got a full Black Ops 2 story to answer some of those burning questions for you linked on the screen right now. So click through, and I'll see you there with the full, absolutely bonkers, multi-path story of Call of Duty Black Ops 2.